So I will now give the floor to Benjamin, who will tell you all about education in our liberal arts and sciences program. So Ben, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Good morning from me as well. As Marika already said, my name is Benjamin Bewersdorf. I am the Academic Director of Education at UCG. So what does it mean? What's an academic director? I'm responsible for thinking about two main questions, and that is, what do we teach? So what do we teach in our program, and how do we teach? And today I want to talk a little bit about those two questions. I'm going to talk for a little bit now, but please feel free to ask questions while I'm talking. If I pick them up, I'll just respond to them immediately. So I'm happy if this is a little bit of an interactive session as well. You can interrupt me anytime, and then we can discuss your questions or ideas. I'm also going to ask you for things, and I hope that you respond to those questions as well. And the first thing I want to ask you is, well, what is a liberal arts education? So you all came here, and probably you have some sort of picture in your mind about liberal arts. Maybe you can post it in the chat. What do you think liberal arts is about? Well, maybe you're going to think now, well, that's the reason we came here. We want you to tell me. So I'm going to tell you, choosing a lot of different subjects instead of just one. Good. Anyone else has an idea? What came in customized program? Okay, good. Broad study on various topics. Okay, so multidisciplinarity. Yeah, so what you have in mind is kind of these inter or multidisciplinarity of the program. And I'm going to talk about this in a second. But I want to briefly start with kind of the original meaning of the term, because the term liberal arts is actually quite old. It dates back until antiquity. And there, liberal arts was a pretty rigid program, actually. It was 7 disciplines: rhetorics, grammar, logic, astronomy, arithmetic, geometry, and music. And the idea back in the time was that these were basically the things that you needed to learn in order to be a proper citizen, right? To engage with the problems of your time. And the term liberal here also means to free people, refers to free people, so people who are not slaves. So people who were able to take part in the democracies of their time. Our program, our liberal arts and science program at UCG, is, well, broadly within that tradition, right? So we don't focus on grammar and music anymore, but we still want to prepare our students to engage with the problems of your time, right? The thing is that the problems have changed since antiquity, right? We worry about very different things these days than people did 2,000 years ago. And that means that that in order to do this, in order to deal with the complex and difficult problems that we face today, we need a different type of skill sets, right? We need different knowledge and skills in order to engage with those problems. So what do I mean with complex problems? Well, here's a couple of examples, which you definitely all are familiar with through debates in the media, right? So one issue might be, what are the risks that artificial intelligence poses for us as human species, right? Are we going to end up in a Terminator scenario where we are going to be dominated by rampant artificial intelligence? And if that's something we want to avoid, how do we take precautions and so on, right? How do we deal with climate change? How do we kind of prevent it or limit it? Or how do we deal with the consequences of climate change, right? What are the reasons for migration? What are the problems that arise from migrations, and how can we help people who are in specific bad situations and want to migrate or have migrated, and so on? How do we deal with conflicts, violent conflicts or other types of conflicts around the world? So these are all very, very complex and difficult problems. And what we think at UCG is that if you want to deal with these kind of problems, then you cannot do this from the perspective of a single discipline, right? So we think that for these types of problems, which we want to prepare our students to work on, you really need to have a very interdisciplinary perspective. And for that reason, our program is not only teaching you specific disciplinary knowledge and skills and maybe general academic skills, but we have a very strong component in which we train our students to work in interdisciplinary teams, interdisciplinary groups on problems like these, right? On these very complex problems that cannot be solved from a single perspective. And this part, this interdisciplinary part, has a kind of dedicated section within our program, and those are interdisciplinary projects. And the idea of these projects are that we have students that study all kinds of different things, right? They put their academic focus on very different areas of academic research, but within the project they come together and then as a team try to engage with a very difficult, complex issue. And they all bring their own academic expertise and backgrounds and knowledge into that project. And students then learn how to combine the knowledge from different disciplines, but also how to work across disciplines. And this is actually quite difficult, right? Working across disciplines sounds always very easy, but it's actually quite challenging, even for academics. Now, these projects are presented at the end of the academic year. There's always a very nice event in the summer where everyone presents what they have been working on. There's a barbecue in the end. It's a very nice atmosphere. Maybe you have a chance to visit Project Presentation Day. I think often there's open days scheduled at the same time. So I think most of you are from close by. So I would definitely recommend you to attend an open day, maybe at this point. And what's nice about the projects is they often involve external stakeholders as well. And then the result of these problems can make real difference in the world, right? So there might be real recommendations to external stakeholders or other parties involved that actually benefit from the work our students do in these projects. Now, I said that all our students focus on different academic disciplines, and here is a little bit of an overview of the different areas where we have a strong focus in our teaching. So we distinguish between three broad majors. The kind of the boundaries between these majors are a little bit vague, so you can see this from the colors fading into each other in this picture. But we have areas, kind of focus areas within all the three majors: sciences, humanities, and social sciences. And within the sciences, we have a focus on neuroscience and health and life science, as well as artificial intelligence and programming and stuff like this is in there. In the humanities, we have literature and culture and philosophy. And then we have law, which is a little bit on the intersection between social sciences and humanities. We have international relations and politics, economics and business, and psychology. And these are kind of the strong points where a lot of courses happen. But you don't have to kind of pick one of these disciplines and then kind of focus your study on this. And as I saw from your comments in the beginning, this is also not what you intend, and this is very nice. Because at UCG, you have the opportunity to create your own personalized learning path, right? You have a lot of freedom um, when it comes to choosing which areas, which disciplinary areas to focus on. So if you want to, you can zoom in really on one of these things. Maybe economics is your thing. You really want to know more about this, and then you take a lot of courses in this area. But you can also combine it with different parts of the program. I'm just going to give you a couple of examples of ways in which you could personalize your program at UCG. So, for example, a well-known interdisciplinary program is PPE, that's philosophy, politics, and economics. So, if this is you're interested in, if this is an interdisciplinary area that appeals to you, maybe you're interested in good governance or something like this, you want to go into politics or into some function or organization that deals with organizing a country or advice on that, right? So then you could maybe choose a combination like this. You learn a little bit of politics, you learn how the economy works, and you take some course in ethics, for example, from our philosophy offering to supplement this by. A different way to organize your program could be something like cognitive science. So cognitive science is also a very interdisciplinary area which combines all the different disciplines that think about thinking, basically, right? So you have psychology in there, you have neuroscience, you have artificial intelligence, and then you have a different area within philosophy that is interested in questions of rationality, for example. So this is a completely different program that you could build yourself from the course offering. A couple of weeks ago, I talked with a student here who was really interested in starting a social media business, right? And if something like this is what you're interested in, right, then you can, of course, also tailor the program specifically to the questions you're interested in, right? So, for example, for that student, what I recommended to her was to take maybe courses on programming from our artificial intelligence program, courses on literature and culture to kind of enhance her own writing communication, and then maybe courses on publishing laws and business and entrepreneurship, right? And there you have a program that is kind of tailored, an interdisciplinary program that is tailored towards a specific interest, right? How to maybe run a social media business. So this is our program from a very broad perspective, right? Kind of how you can design it and so on. Maybe you are interested in also hearing a little bit more concretely about how studying at UCG would look like. And I'm going to share another slide with an example of how the first year might look like. But before we get there, maybe would be interesting to hear what's your personal interest, right? You said you wanted to do a different in multidisciplinary or interdisciplinary program. If you look at these areas which I just showed you here, what would interest you to combine maybe in terms of courses? Sociology and sustainability, okay. Literature and culture and economics. Law and health science, yes. Psychology, politics, and law. That also sounds like a very interesting combination. Yeah, good. It's nice that you already have some good idea about what you want to do, right? So as I will show you in the next slide, there's a lot of opportunity for you to explore at UCG as well. So if you're not, if you don't have a very clear idea of where you want to go, but I think it's very good to already start with some clear interest and see whether the UCG program fits with this, right? Whether you can see your own interest mirrored into the course offerings that we have. So the academic year at UCG, and that's the case for many programs here in the Netherlands, consists of 4 blocks, and each block is 10 weeks. Typically, the 10th week, there's no teaching activities, so you can catch a little bit of a breather in between the blocks. And then in each block, you typically take 3 courses, right? Sometimes students take an extra course if they are very ambitious. But the typical schedule for you would be 4 blocks and 3 courses per block. Now, before I mentioned that we want to train you in kind of disciplinary knowledge and general academic skills, and also kind of this interdisciplinary line. And this is mirrored a little bit in the beginning of this of our program, right? So in the first block, you start with academic skills, which just brings everyone on the same level as to how do we work within a university education. So we have probably more demanding requirements on sources that you use if you write an essay and stuff like this, the way the language we use, the way we present our ideas, and so on. These kind of basic skills you learn in this course. Later in block 2, you learn the basics of academic research, so maybe how to do an interview, how to do quantitative research, and so on. What the empirical research cycle is, very basic concepts of academic research. Then parallel to this, you will have a couple of core electives. These core electives are intended to give you a little bit of an overview of the different disciplinary areas you can afterwards specialize in or take courses in. So even if you haven't fully decided of what you're interested in, you can use this first semester, the first 2 blocks, to explore a little bit what different, how it is like to study a specific discipline on a university level. And then the last component is a course that's called Challenges of Modern Society. And here we introduce you to how you can deal with complex problems, how you work in an interdisciplinary team, and so on. And you'll use these skills later in your first project, which is in block 4. So the project in the first year is just during 1 block. The project in the second year is a little bit longer. It goes over 2 blocks. But there you learn a little bit about how you kind of approach a complex problem in an interdisciplinary way. Now, starting from the 3rd block, you have a lot of choices between various major electives. So at this point, you have to think a little bit about in which direction you want to go, right? So if I see at the things that you are interested in here, right? So maybe if you're interested in psychology, then you're going to take introductory courses to psychology. Maybe if you're interested in law, you'll take your first law courses or health and life science courses, right? So this is kind of where you make these choices. And then you'll also start taking courses in research and methodology. So those courses are courses that supplement your content courses in the major with the fitting methodology courses that fit to this, right? So if you want to go into AI, then you probably need to do some calculus and mathematics classes. If you're interested in psychology, then you're probably going to take statistics classes here. If you're interested in literature and culture, then maybe you want to do qualitative methods, arts-based methods, and courses like this. So this is a basic structure of the first year. I want to talk a little bit as well about our educational vision. So I think that the way we teach at UCG is quite different from teaching at many other programs, right? So for example, if you would enroll for a normal psychology or normal economics degree program, then most of your class will consist of huge lectures with 300 people in the same room, and then you have someone in the front and talking for 2 hours. And this is what we don't want to do, because we believe that this is not an effective way to learn, right? You will not remember anything after having sat passively on a chair listening for 2 hours, right? It's not a good way to learn and understand material. So what we do instead is that we have very small classes of 15, maybe 25 students. And these classes meet twice per week for 2 hours. But then you're not listening and sitting there, but you are going to be very active during the classes, right? So we have very strong focus on active and student-driven learning. So active means that you don't passively absorb information, but you are given exercise, group works, projects to work on, problems to solve, and so on. And student-driven means that you can also kind of actively change and shape the way the education works, right? So think about the projects, for example. We are not going to tell you how to solve a problem, but you and your team, you'll have to figure out how you define the problem, what kind of research you're going to do, what kind of resources you're going to use, what kind of disciplines you're going to employ, how you're going to engage with the problem, and so on, right? So a lot of the learning is driven by you. We also try to be up to date to how efficient education works, right? So we use a lot of innovative teaching methods. So research projects within our courses are quite common. A colleague of mine just had a virtual reality project in a medicine course, right, where they built a virtual environment of a specific room in one of our hospitals here close by, a room that typically you cannot go into because it's always busy. And then you could use this virtual surroundings to learn about how people work in the room and what kind of things there are to work with. Last year, I used board games to introduce my students to concepts of decision making. And the list goes on. So we try to find good and interesting and effective ways in which we can teach our students what we want to teach them. And the last point is we have very motivated lecturers and also very motivated students, right? So so in a way, it's good for you to have people who really want to teach and enjoy teaching and think about how to teach well. Also expect our students to mirror this, right? So we want our students to take part, to take initiative, to be well prepared, and so on. So this active learning that just works if people participate, right? If people just sit back and listen, then it doesn't work. But this is not how our students behave in class. Okay, so now I have been talking for quite a while. But this is the end of my story. Thank you for your attention. Do you have any questions about what you just heard? Yeah, we have multiple courses in mathematics. So there's a general mathematics course that is targeted towards people who are interested in areas such as economics and health and life science. In those disciplines, you need some basic mathematics. And we also have kind of more specialized courses in linear algebra and calculus, and that are specifically designed towards people who are interested in our science program, like AI, programming, econometrics, these areas.